Heart Sutra mantra.
Yeah, that's what it is. What is it? Sanje
Chogla Jungchu Badu Dagni Kapsuchi Dagni Sonamki Drola Panche Sangye Drogpa Shog
Sanje
Jungchu Badu Dagni Kapsuchi Sonamki Drola Panche Kapsuchi Sonamki Drola Panche Sangye Drogpa Shog
Daya
Gate Padasana Gate Body So
Daya
Gate Padasana Gate Body So
All the 남자 내시 자슴자 탐제가 톱잘라나 마치바 산제의 고마를 보지 진짜 도바자 이제도 안배 장주선 발랍전의 수시도 냠서 라와래 신고 시발에 퇴고래 퇴지쇼 만화와지 거들 아니 가서 보거든 남르기 쇼디 닝이 예서서 공부자 뭐든지.
And then we, as usual, set our motivation to do whatever we possibly can to attain the peerless state of enlightenment by perfecting all the trainings on the Bodhisattva path. Knowing that to perfect those trainings, we must have a thorough understanding of what they are about in order to put them into practice. And we gain that understanding by being able to rely on an unmistaken text, an unmistaken presentation of those teachings. And so we are here this morning, fortunate enough to hear a talk on such a teaching on the graduated path to enlightenment.
아니 장주가 섬지다 가와 섬지 탐제 산제 고마 톱도야가 산제 섬지 탐제도 산제 고마 톱발라 장주가 섬제 장주 섬제 원래 니지 개발라 아니 코야기 동에기 코야기 껴 타치바 시에고게 코야기 껴 타치바 시에네 아니 안 딜링이 봐줘 연주 마이마 탑배바 인도 아니 다다다 증가라서 가수 배배 아니 잡을린 되나라 다 먹다 먹고 싶어 안 다가니 이제 내나 살아서 강 망고 지 여태까지 삼로 야고 있다나 아니 제 코알링 연주 계획다 주연의 매니저래도 와. 그러와? 주연의 매니저래도 다 디가 삼로 야고 있다는 알아서 처음에 전개래도 와. 지다 동해에 먹어래대. 강해래대 이나야 타바다 탐지 잡아 되는 얘기 제가 다들 구급절래도 와. 다들 뭐좀 못줘 봤잖아. 오다 저기 코아디 동해그라시래. 아니 타마 구배 두바래. 그러와? 구배 두바래. 구배 맞으면 치야면도 개배 타마시 좀배 타마제 아니 가서도 통배 타마로 다 가다 사배 타마제 다 가자 강가 타마들라 탈출들라 다 지금 가서도 다 독실 찾으면도 매딩을 해도 다 디인도 디모좀 못해 봤잖아 다 네가 그거 먼저 타바다 탐색 잡아 두개 다 튕겨라 자도 봤지 딱 깨지 못 줄래도 아 디인도 아니 먼저 록다운 제와 있네 나라도 최야 뭐지 두개 고갑도 와
And so this whole scenario really provides us with an excellent opportunity to meditate on renunciation, on being able to really, I would say, fill out our desire to gain definite emergence from cyclic existence. And we see that as the essential foundation stone, really, for the development of the mind of enlightenment, or bodhicitta itself. And of course, this is quintessential for us to be able to attain enlightenment. And so, as we know, the development of the mind of enlightenment depends upon our being able to develop compassion, a fully qualified great compassion. And that compassion, in turn, is developed only on being able to see the faults of cyclic existence, the suffering that cyclic existence, the nature that cyclic existence is in the nature of suffering itself. And so that's what feeds our compassion, and being able to broaden that sense of compassion for all cyclic existence. So it's a very good point to be able to see that all the faults of cyclic existence are kind of, how would you say, exemplified by the kind of pandemic conditions that we're experiencing at the moment. The fact that we are communicating in this way is due to the faults of cyclic existence. And so it's very good to use these opportunities, to see any opportunity to be able to refine our understanding of renunciation, and so that then we are compelled to seek means of escaping from cyclic existence itself. So, and everything that is suffering, everything that is unwanted. And so that means that, the whole nature of cyclic existence is telling us that whatever is high is going to be brought low. Whatever is gathered together will be separated. Whatever is accumulated will be lost. Well, every birth leads to a death, and so on. These are natural facts of the matter. This is the nature of a suffering reality called cyclic existence. And so it's very, very important for us to be able to learn how to see whatever conditions arise, like these conditions that we are experiencing at present, as conducive conditions for practice, and to seize that opportunity, and to be getting used to doing that, and to see that, even though we are in lockdown, it is actually presenting us with extra conducive impetus for our practice. Yeah.
Rangla any kaso de kwa ngotu go yobaje tak bune kwa ngotu go lobyo so cha de twa ya ko samta na kwa sing de ko tunge ga ra de ta so ngotu go lobyo ji ge ani oda kembu so cha de twa kwa ngotu go lobyo.
So it's kind of saying this is like somebody who's really demonstrating to us, teaching us that cyclic existence, as if we didn't have enough information about it already, as if we didn't know already, is again just illuminating the fact that cyclic existence is in the nature of suffering, and it's something that we should, continuously strive to recognize, to understand for ourselves again and again and again.
What didn't tablet tabam tamtic jambaji matam tamento. That dinner and Narado that setare milule dinner and it is Tabachi Tamba the Jeba cook up Dilata, Sim Tamjik to Sanje Coma Tobiagata, Chicaso the language Jordan, Dot Shimbati, that cook up Simne. And Taba the Tamjik Jeba, Lam to be Tungela Chatobaina, Tangarazu, and it did not Tungela Chatobaina, then down. Because she was a meaningful thing. What did
And so then, on top of that, we have this kind of like this understanding that we have no choice but to strive to attain a state of enlightenment. That we have attained a precious human rebirth. That's a wonderful advantage. And not only that, but we've met with the Mahayana teachings. That's very, very good. We have some sense of understanding of the path, and all of this is really something that we should constantly put to the forefront of our mind, in order that we really seize the day in terms of practice, and so that at the end of life we can see and be assured that we have led what they call a meaningful life.
That number the shin that social helps you that got to Maria Magona Tab never what the literature and conversation what don't get that don't get Casada, don't get take Nankala and the Takaja Casoda Takaja Rangi and the Sarah Lama Yimbala number and Tuanto Shaka right Rangi Sarah Lama and it Casoda Jawa Tamjik Tamgurum Yimbala number and the Casoda to be on and it tended to be over two gun, 10 dollars to what Yamish like to watch out to someone Yamish. Yet the Yellow and it Jam Jaya needed to be a Samata Judge Lama Nakobashi, and don't do West Lieutenant, and I get to just have a children go to the Lama, and this Shabla, and it touched judicial household Lame, Nature, Chaju, and then I guess I send your ton, and Raja, and it power country should just so much at Tamaja. What did it cause? And the year you get to learn because of the Cham China and you shop the land and cut them and the cause of the Lama Cubatica, Tisham de la and Jango Cubatic. What I took a focus your muscle never you so what did the conversation? What did it say?
Let's now set up the merit field as we normally do in the context of this this text. And so again, in the center, in the space in front of us, is the principal figure. In reality, our own root guru, in the aspect of the Guru Manindra Vajradhara, and so, and then seated on a lion throne, in the Vajra posture, in the saffron robes of a monk. And also then in the sky above, the lineage of the consecrated practices headed by Vajradhara. To the right and left, we have Lord Maitreya at the head of the extensive practices lineage, and Lord Manjushri of the profound view lineage. Below them, the different schools, the three different schools of the Kadampa lineages on both sides. And then below them again, the Geluk tradition with Jai Rinpoche Lama Tsongkhapa at the center of that group. And then in the space just in front, at the base of that throne, we have the grouping of our own teachers, those from whom we have received teachings, and in the center of which is our own root guru. And then around them and just below, we start the array of the tantric the highest yoga tantra, the yoga tantra, the Kriya and Charya tantra deities are all present there. Then the grouping of the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate eon, 35 Buddhas. Then the solitary realizer Buddhas, the hearer Buddhas, and then the different arhats, the bodhisattvas, the bodhisattvas, the arhats, the heroes, the dakinis, and the dharma protectors. So that as we establish the merit field, we have the certainty that all the members of the merit field have come, are present.
아니 랑게 타고들래 아니 랑게 진짜 마긴가 심지어 다 마사와 매바 요 서서 어디네 공부하신다 지금 다녀 벌써다 뭐다데 진짜 마긴가 심지어 마사와 매바 요서 대다 다제가 아니 저거 남바 민대시 남주 요바 간실라 삼도다시네 아니 저 소신이 대달라 아니 배지 가서래 아니 지금 대바도 매바도 둠바도 진짜 요되게 간실라 아니 저주소서 동네 넣으시고 야 다이가 인지게 쳐봐 요거래 동네 넣으시고 통 어딘데 제 공부하셔 아니 소신 대다 다제가 지원 옴가고 정말 아무고 두가 공부 근데 이거 속에 세지다 아니 두가 혼래 소신 대다가 두가 혼래 왜서 빠도 매바 전에 신랍자는 내배 아니 시바 제한다네 안 대달라 팀네 당호바 다시 받아 니수 매바 주스다 니수 매바 차네 아니 소기 신안 담시 빠들라 이시바 무엇을 팀네 안단 지금에 이시바 무엇을 주네 다 뭐 예매 차수서 어디는 공부하셔 어디는 쳐
Next, we visualize in the space all around us are all kinds mother sentient beings from all the different realms of existence. They are in their own aspect. They have a human perception, and so they are able to look towards the merit field as we are, with minds of faith, aspiration, and hope. And that, but we also are aware of all their different sufferings, and so we can generate a sense of compassion towards them, as well as having this sense of faith towards the merit field. Now we notice that all the figures in the merit field are marked by the three letters of Om at the crown, A at the throat, and Hung at the heart. And light rays emanate from that Hung at the heart, inviting all of the wisdom beings from their natural abodes. And these wisdom beings come and dissolve into all the merit field members. And so we have now this renewed appreciation for the merit field as being fully empowered by the wisdom beings.
어디는 아니 가서 어디는 소신 세담네 아니 저게 가서 야라도 뭐 멘제다 제가 퓨처 어디는
And then we make the offering of the 7-limb practice and offering a mandala to the merit field, show our appreciation.
가자도 쳐봤어도 딱 가자 소소 것도 다저 변은 인잡다 아니 최메다 가리표에는 매도라서바 가리표에는 것도 가리샤마 되자 아니 다른 저 랑게 아니 때 두수도 사베 객사가 쳐발라 쥐네 아니 지금 가서다 다 저기 초발을 쥐잖아 아니 저 가서다 동성의 동치고 지대 강강하니 왔다 되게 초발 쥐잖아 아니 저거 다 야표할 때네 아니 대다가 초발 할로
Hello? Yeah, so again? Speak so.
대다가 초발 아니 셰네 아니 대다가 두줄을 대화통 대외 동밖에 대동니스면 이시 차소 삼사체 다가니 저 먼저 저 차세 왔다 아니 저 가서다 다가 저 가서다 디바샤 왔다 아니 다 가르쳐 봐 이네 대다가 두줄을 아니 바다 가서 대화통 소신 대다가 두줄을 대화통네 아니 대외 동배 대화를 대동니스면 이시 계속서 어디에 고바시게이나 소소가 디바 다 쳐보 마음 봐라 랑줄라야 대동니스면 이시 계획 바자샤야 我到底开发有个有吧？我就说刚刚这个说了，他这个兄弟送完的现在刚突突给，俺们接突吧接，我这里想。
And so, in the context of these practices, of including the seven-limbed practice, the offering of the mandala here, it's important that we recognize the importance of these and doing our very best to make them as realistic as possible. So, for example, when we're making offerings, we may well have, beautiful flower arrangements that we can do ourselves, and the offering of light offerings, the tea lights, and so on. But also to engage in the offerings of our own imagination. And here, really, there is no limit that we can try to imagine all of the most excellent things in all of the 3,000 worlds of existence and make an offering of them to the merit field. And when we see this, we see that all the members of the merit field are incredibly impressed by the sincerity of our offerings. They have this feeling of bliss, which combines with emptiness, and they abide in the wisdom of a non-dual bliss and voidness. And so this is very, very significant, not just that for the moment, in the process of our being able to, purify our own negativities and accumulate these positive merit, but also in the future for our own ability to actually experience this melding of bliss and voidness and being able to abide in the wisdom of non-dual bliss and voidness. So it has a tremendous significance. So it's important that, in the process of the seven limbs, whether it's purifying our negativities, rejoicing, making offerings like this, and so on, that we try to include this aspect of the abiding in non-dual bliss and voidness through offering our practice to all the members of the merit field, see them accepting and enjoying in this way. It has a kind of an added significance over and above what we are doing in the present time.
다나 생게 아니 초바 피오다 아니 저 야라 두베기 냠네 제베 칼라 랑기 르파도 메바 주 소에죠 다 이네 파도 메바 주스도 로를 송고 문도나 아니 라 토마 메바니 깨왈랑게 그 루티게 건가 그가 냠도 아니 지금 요 삼사체나 다 타여봐 줘봐 랑기 가서다 랑기 깨와 타여봐 레이도 아 대다 탐제다 타여 마겠습니다 탐제게 냠도 아니 저 가서다 야라도 멘테도 제발 냠니 지금 요 삼사 어디를 제발이나 아니 되게 디샤사다 되게 제발 디방문에 다수 삼사 내가 차수 삼사 어디를 고바시에 계속 심지 말이 어디를 차
And another way of really augmenting this particular aspect of practice is to, of course, visualize, countless, limitless sentient beings with us, engaging in all of these practices simultaneously, whether it's the prostrations, the making of offerings, the purifying of negativities, the rejoicing, and so on. And if that's too much, we can't get our head around all sentient beings. We could just imagine all of our own previous rebirths. So all of the different versions of us since beginning this time.
No, Konda. Near this one, all somebody be some stangle. That got a Rangaluya tie about two swings. Rangalu.
Oh, sorry. No, again, sorry. Mistake. Yeah, sorry. No, again, they're saying not that, but rather that we have emanate countless versions of our own body all together there. So it's all these different versions that we have emanated from ourselves, and try to memorize that, or sorry, visualize that, imagine that, and then together with all kind mother sentient beings as well, all participating together in doing all of these 7 limbs of practice, from prostration, from purifying negativities, from the offerings and so on, all together like this. It's the offering of mandala as well, a wonderful way of really kind of multiplying the benefits of what we're doing.
다 랑글 루타이바 2 세컨드라 som점이야 랑글 루투스 또 로라 마숑아 차이나 아니 랑글 토바메바네 겨월링게 루 강간 냠도 쳐봐 비고요 삼나 아니 거 또스로 숑대야도 또 숑대야도 야 거기 담에 와서 가서 루투에 메로 루타이바 2스 로라 숑아 거도 가보도 다디 야 단다보도 수세 겨월링게 루가 다 겨왕가마 디가마 토바메바 루 강간 루다 루데 강간 냠도 아니 디과샤 다 누가 디과사요 봐 디과사 다다고 냠기도 봐.
So again, let's say yes, this process of visualizing that we are emanating countless versions of our own body now might be a little much for our own imagination to handle. And so, yeah, you can just think of your own previous rebirths, all of your countless previous rebirths as well. Last rebirth, the one before that, going back, and to imagine that you are all together here doing these practices of purification and offering, etc. And it says there's no problem with this one, because there's no doubt that all your previous rebirths also have plenty of negativities to purify again. Saying that we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, what did it and and what the new top chair, that did what did they combine? What did they combine? That did it
and so this kind of really extending our imagination like this, it certainly adds power to our purification practice and power to our accumulation of positive merit.
What did it say? That I need to let the Kazura penetration ina mo jiga pena jiga yonde shi ju ma dawo de jiga den ene samlo tan da lam le cha cha ma ko shi ni den chune ma samlo tan ene da cha cha je samlo tan tun da ya bu shu ju ra wo de chen da ge jiga ra wo de chen da de chen ene an da bo je jam zhuo de sem jie da说的讲究的sem jie che ani da ni shi ge ji ga so de da ga je ji ani de ne shi ni de zhe ne ma jia da ga je ji kwam ne ro da song ju ge ba do cha sang a je da ni ma de lam rim cha da so xin de de se da ni ma de kan de ha jia ma so la de de ge de ne kan de ha jia ma yan de yuan de shi ju ma wo de ro wo de ne ji ge de ne ani ji ju ju mang bu yuan ne da ji ko zhe de ju ju de ne da ga ji kan tu du 다 지금 거저 가서도 신이 되주네 저 바다 지금 다와도 로틴 바 코메체 다 뒤지 가서 내가 다 된대게 다 지금 팀장이 내다다 망부 지금 시부지 뒤지 다 가고 인바 이나야 쇼가 자체에서 초신 셋업 아니 야라도 멘데다 잡아 피 아니 되네 잠도 셈게잖아 다 가자 연대 시주마 소로 지금 된대 되네 라브 샤콤레데 제토나 라브리 샤콤 레레체 아니 제신이 된주다 된전이가 다 치와 미다바다 다 아니 다 오다다 냐송고 동에다 아니 데레 타베 아니 잠조다 아니 코아치 내다다 아니 데네 코아치라 냐바주아 타바다 데네 아니 람라바솜 냠슬라드 데네 데 가서데다 토마베 타바 쳔베게 아니 가서데다 가저제 가서 잠니지 장조 셈라 아니 데네 냠레 제네 아니 가서 쳔베게 냠레 제다 왔다 들에 저는 봐 송주고 봐도 아니 지금 샤콤지 샵 제토나 샤콤지 합체 아니 뒤쇼들 아니 람리 몰럼지 돼 아니 뭐 찾아야지 되게 좋나 아니 다 마오 발라 지금에 리타르 찬 주주 중에 가라 콜 냠내 주도 거 타지지 줘 봐. 로아 거지 콜til라 컴시르 줘 봐. 인자 어디에 전 아니 지금 다 미스 돈다 좀 받지. 니마르들 남녀 샤콤레를 저는 미스 돈다 좀 받아. 미스 돈다 좀 받아. 왔다 근데 좀 공부하셔야잖아. 그래. 되더래. 간제 저 산제 그 타여버 송 되게 건가 말 도모도 아니 간사제 산제와 남그를 말 마티오도 다 남리 마티오도 아니 뭐 这个람 차장 상대도 차장한테 다 어디래전 딱 이제 니마리를 데레레 샤콤레레레 제도가 있나 은 배우는 거 와. 어디래
So this, to try and even do this much practice per day, and of course in the morning, is highly recommended. That is the generation of the merit field in this way, of settling our mind, knowing that we have all kind mother sentient beings all around us, to engage in the practices of the seven limb practice of accumulation of merit and the purification of negativity, and then also to include prayers such as the foundation of good qualities, of all good qualities, or the hundreds of deities of the land of joy, and that to use all of these prayers, particularly foundation of good qualities, to do a kind of a glance meditation on all the subject matter of the graduated path to enlightenment. I think this is extremely useful to try and do, and even if you have work and so on that you have to get out and do, this is something that you can maybe try to cover as much as you can in the morning. But it's a great way to start off the day, and that here, to talk about or to glance the very beginning of taking refuge initially, generating the mind of enlightenment, then going into a brief glance at the different aspects of how to relate to the spiritual teacher correctly, going through the precious human rebirth teaching. Then we're looking at death and impermanence, looking at the faults of cyclic existence, the lower realms, the development of refuge, looking at the faults of cyclic existence in general, how to aim for liberation, then afterwards the gaining the bodhicitta ideal through developing the mind of enlightenment itself, etc., etc. That here, it's a very, very important to be able to try to develop this as a real practice, a real strong habit, something that's kind of indelibly imprinted on our mind, so that when we actually retire and maybe we have more time to take this up, this will already be well established in our mindset. So it arises, without any prompting, and that we can go through a beautiful practice like this in front of, again, the merit field, and that this is something that we should place a lot of value on, because it is something that leads to, if we're able to continue it like right through to the end of our life, it really will stand to us as having led a meaningful life. And this is the objective of the authors of this wonderful presentation of the graduated path, that they have really included all the key aspects, key subject matter of all the teachings of the Buddha. And therefore we are very confident that when we are doing a glance meditation through all of these aspects, in our morning practice, that we have, that sort of the main import of all the teachings of the Buddha, again, as another layer of experience on our mind. And of course, that we visualize all of the kind mother sentient beings all around us doing exactly the same as we are, with great enthusiasm.
我的是恐怕些，我的这，他的呢，俺们首先这个的，俺们刚才说到，俺们亚拉多嘛面对的这么，我的恐怕些，俺们的呢，他刚才就首先这个的呀，进了今天个呀，明天呀，他全都什么就是他呀进了今天呀这个，俺们全都我都让直接在外让全都我都让嘛，全都我都让直接在外让嘛的，俺们个讲过让嘛中国吧，全部就把这个进了今天个呀见了，他刚才就。잠자야니 라 파티 아니 미가 이게 따게 아니 가서다 가서다 냠리 지라주에 라마디가 지라 지텐게 아니 자오도 찬소 오다 라망가라 미고 어드레스 그거 애들이야 야라도만 면대다 좀 어드레스 아니 되나 아니 자오도 지찬데 아니 뭐 그래서 라마토안도 찬 파티 잠자야니다 라마토안도 찬 파티 라게 지자 자에 라마데 라마토안도 찬 두가 고sol라 오다 내수삼다 어드레스
so that we again, so then just trying to really do this practice of offering the 7 limbs and the mandala practice as efficiently, as earnestly, as sincerely as we possibly can, and to a very active merit field, of course, as well. It's not something just static. And so after this, then we can simply dissolve the merit field, starting with the Dharma protectors and going up through the dakinis and dakas and so on, until all of those lower levels of the merit field have absorbed into our own root guru, who remains there at the foot of the throne of the main figure. And then also if the two versions of the Geluk tradition and the Kadampa tradition dissolve up through the extensive practices and profound view traditions respectively, until we are left with only the two remaining figures, Lord Maitreya and Lord Manjushri, on the left and right. And then above, the consecrated practices, gurus, all dissolve upwards into Vajradhara, so that we are left there momentarily with the 5 main figures. And then that also then further dissolves with the 2 on the left and right, Manjushri and Maitreya, coming into, dissolve into the central figure of Lama Tukmong Dorje Chang, and then the figure of Vajradhara comes down, dissolves into the crown of Lama Tukmong Dorje Chang, and finally our own guru rises up and dissolves into the heart center of the central figure of Lama Tukmong Dorje Chang. And that's sorry, I should have said there, once we had arrived at the 5 main figures, we should again at that point offer the 7 limb practice and mandala as well. And then it further dissolves into the last remaining central figure of Lama Tukmong Dorje Chang, who is of course the embodiment of all Buddhas.
我的大错一个错性的，你别错性他们这个大你，如果大家这个说的，那么米照啊，对嘛人们都对了我去查定多，对了我去，那么米照啊，对的，这个甚至个对主要叫做，你看不到对吧？你看不中国有对，你感谢了年让个那么对，感谢了年对，感谢了人家，感谢了把我看着群众数码个那么对，你感谢了大家这个说的，大家这个说的大个。这个人他个这一旦跟那么明朝的他啥弄的看的明朝有为因啥哎呢这了不被一旦跟那么明朝唱不会的俺他我让的那么多唱你不讲因为这个他没看个着他咋弄听了个着他俺呢在这个俺呢这个他没说出个他个说的他这个看明朝因为是他这了那么明朝传的对中国有为因啥那么明朝的对了他那么多唱大概我这让这是在我这个就是在那么多唱我这里就恐怕线但是他现在讲的他个是的他个就他不注重说的别的如果他个的讲的不得那么来了多唱了是这边出个那么了多唱了啊这个在这龙个的那么了多唱了他就不得那么了多的他个这多印度个的那么了多唱了说这他个这多的那么了多印度个啊这个我但的讲他个就不注是的这我在讲看着更多的群众的讲的的那么了多唱说的我大概讲说不注特别的我在那恐怕这些我只是这种看并不是几两全部一般我真的讲
So then we are left with the last remaining figure of Guru Manindra Vajradhara, Lama Tukmong Dorje Chang. And so here is not only the embodiment of all the Buddhas, but of course all of the members of the merit field and all merit fields for that matter. And so here we have to understand that all of the members of the merit field are like different aspects of Guru Manindra Vajradhara. And they appeal to the different dispositions of all sentient beings that they are moving out to benefit and so on, whether some will see them as the dakas and dakinis, the dharma protectors, or the heroes, the solitary realizers, the hearers, some as meditational deities, and then some as different of the different 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate eon, etc. So each will be able to respond to the needs of those who have that particular affinity with that aspect. But we also understand that in reality, in their nature, they are all Guru, Manindra, Vajradhara. And so here, again, with that sort of enlightened body, speech and mind, enlightened, skillful means, etc., that they all can respond in that way perfectly to whatever the needs are of sentient beings, but they are all in nature Guru, Manindra, Vajradhara. And so this is yes, this is how we stand at the moment. Yes.
What is compassion? That can what is what is that? Then and rangi kasode and kasode that can kasode koade and tunga rashi in by yamu water bachan some stand that can rock kasode that koas do it and kasode nyeleng pumbo and it rawan meba the chicken chili green kote then tamadu bachan. Then rawan to tamadu bachan ha de. 다 걸어왔으기 여러 와다도 코아디 아니 계획 담아치에 줘야다 다 가자지 와다디가 가전 아니 지금 아니 다 가자 개주의 사제 녀wel이 풍부기 주인데 마법을 봐도 동네 못는 영화 임바다 워터 같네 어떻게 와다 워터 아니 델레 타वे 다 델레 워터네 아니 가서다 델레 아니 녀버 주네 델레 마타나 타면 선 녀버 주네 아니 연조제 고마시 아니 디 아니 rangi chiwa de pema chiga gyuso samsacha, rwa pema tama chiwa chiga gyuso samsacha. Ani dene da kacha chiga, dene da kacha de, da kacha chiga dendege, ani chiga so de, simche tamche sanje goma dhugi, lambrim gomugi isi, ani ngati kawato tse chet. Ngati kawato. Rwa ta, dene ngati kawato tse chondu, ani ngati rangwa de dhubare mare. Ngati tanda nawa ne shiti ngati yorbe, 아티네시 요마리 컨디션 다 제주도 아니 저기 제주도 아니 근데 제주도 타마 딱 거랑실에 제주도 거 아니 그 니가 말와 많이 왔다가라 셈샤네 셈샤 아니 근데 그 셈제 아니 니메 긴거 약간 와질라 교수사 지워다 다 근데 지금 다 라시가 맞으면 다 유에데 아니 가서다 다 때는 좋아하는 다 차실에 때는 주야다 왔다 들으면도 왜매 이봐 인사 오다 근데 이나다 구급도 심지어 탐지도 산재 고마 주에 구급도 뒤 뒤도가 둘라 때는 저거 저거 진짜 심지어 탐지 산재 고마 맞으면 탐도 산 아니 야 장주가 심지 고 근데 심지 다외 김과지는 교수 선서 고마시 와다 시보든 빼마다 니마다 다외때 다 뒤다는 라마 투안도 산된 다 제한한 반대자가 라마를 다기 주어 빼면 가지 고수도 우리 자도 소스 아니 젠더 담배 가서 패 니바 가서 수박고 땐저 다 산재 고마 마도 보다 제수 수수 좀 가고
Now focusing both on the last remaining figure in the merit field of Guru Manindra Vajradhara and in our about to invite him to come to take his place on our crown, we start to establish a suitable seat for the Buddha to arrive towards. And so we're reflecting on, again, the nature, is that cyclic existence being in the nature of the suffering, and that there is no avoiding this, really, that, once we have taken on, again, powerlessly, the contaminated, appropriated aggregates of body and mind, we can only inevitably look forward to death again. So this kind of a birth here is a passport only towards death when we take on aggregates in this way, and that this leaves us open to all the sufferings of cyclic existence. We see this. We see that it is in the nature of suffering itself. We see that we cannot get beyond suffering until we get beyond this process of powerlessly taking rebirth again and again like this. And so we develop this sense of renunciation, of a definite emergence from a cyclic existence. And from that thought arises the lotus, and that is placed on our crown. And then we're looking towards we have this aspiration of I will attain the state of enlightenment, and we think about this I that we're mentioning there what is the nature of that I or that self? Something that we think of or we grasp onto as kind of a self-established, as independent of anything else. And we see that when we then start to meditate on that and to say, okay, where will I find this so-called independent, self-established concept of I? And we search within the body-mind continuum for that, because it should be found. It's something that stands out like that. And we reach the end of that contemplation simply by the not finding, the unfinding of what we're looking for. And we try to really maintain kind of a placement meditation just at that point of the mere lack of the object of negation. And from that understanding of the wisdom teachings arises the sun disk on top of the lotus. And then understanding from that mere contemplation that because phenomena, myself included, we cannot exist independently, we must arise independence. And so we introduce the concept of dependent origination, which allows for everything, and for our aspiration particularly to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. This is the mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, and that allows for that sense of phenomena arising on the basis of causes and conditions, on the basis of parts. And so this makes everything possible. Therefore, the development of the mind of enlightenment is possible. And from that certainty arises the moon disk, which sits on the top of the sun and the sun disk and the lotus. So now our seat is ready on our crown, and we engage in the invocation verse for Guru Munindra Vajradhara to come and take a seat there. Oh, glorious and precious root Guru, come take the lotus and moon seat placed on my crown, and keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of your body, speech, and mind. After the first time, the figure sends a replica towards us with the second recitation, arrives on our crown and takes a seat. And then at the end of the third recitation of that verse, we have the certainty that the figure of Guru Munindra Vajradhara is steadfast and will remain with us until we ourselves attain the state of enlightenment.
What did the compassion? Until a yala to mended the chairman, Puna, Tangic, Chicasso, Tangic, what.
And then at this stage, then it's appropriate to again offer the 7-limb practice with the mandala offering.
What did the chat? And it didn't talk about Caso Taka, Talamri Mark Common to any question it and say, Chantash, Rotaka, she needed to get some compassion, and she needed to compassion at Tebe, Matebe, Nimi, Tentu Lobe, Nimilas, Jesu compassion, and she needed to talk about Kivala, Padu Chujagata, Tiba, Takaso Topa Yudu Kiava target to that Genova, Teneta, Lamalai, Chingle up to Sunday Chabatana, and Lamapula, Tisananga, Veseta, Jumpan, Toma, Sabe, and Tiba, Nani, Matu, and choose some such, and she didn't so Topa Kiavaja, Raja Sanja, Tamaki, so what did the chat?
Then we can, at this point too, reflect on the graduated path teachings, again, starting with how to relate to a spiritual teacher correctly, and looking into it in a little more detail as to, how to, the different points of how to relate to a spiritual teacher correctly, then what is the explanation of how we relate to a spiritual teacher incorrectly, in incorrect ways, or of rejecting also our spiritual teacher. And in any of the instances there we think about any negativities that we have accumulated in relation to how to relate to a spiritual teacher of any of our spiritual teachers, and that we want to really purify those with great enthusiasm, and that to be sure that they are eradicated. That gives us then again the how do you say the best possibility of being able to progress on the graduated path teachings and to gain realizations thereafter. And so we look after that aspect of it, that all of our actions and behavior towards our spiritual teacher should be perfect, and anything which has been imperfect, we purify those times, purify those instances as sincerely as we possibly can.
不是，当然这个大点着，点着个多把钱，点着我做，点着我是，点着个多把钱，切都大概的点钱哇，个是年考啊，我打知道啊，点个，多把买钱吧，点着对大不娘，个是别去当个面包人啥，对大不当做个面包人，点着个年吧年。当然是点着的，你考不赢吧一百，对起不赢吧一百，这个老不赢吧一百，点这个懂吧？然后了买几百点着米都出来单位，你看是我点着你考啊，这个老啊，大概你考啊，对起啊，这个老啊，我点这个懂吧？几百然后甚至他几百了，把去几百了嘛，他马家吧，他们都在家吧几个，在家吧接触完了，但那么多想把这个就是在那个说的什么呢？就是那个有时军办胖地方的开发多，在那个到外交了，把地方的嘛，家庭都是我在那不发现。
And that here, in terms of these slightly more extensive meditations on the different aspects of the graduated path, we conclude each one by engaging with the descending nectar light meditation, where we see the nectar light released from the Guru Manindra Vajradhara on our crown, moving down through our body, and indeed the bodies of all mother sentient beings all around us, purifying all negativities and obscurations in general, and in particular, the particular negativities that we have accumulated in relation to what we are meditating on. And that this renders us then ready, perfectly set up for realization on the graduated path. And so, secondly, then, after how to relate to a spiritual teacher, we look at the precious human rebirth teachings, and how rare it is that we have this opportunity of a precious human rebirth, how difficult it is to gain, how meaningful it is to have such a birth, and how easily lost it is, how fragile such a life is. Therefore, we gain a really heightened sensitivity to the value of this time that we have, and therefore we are impelled to make the very most of this time, not to waste any of this time. This is something that comes to our awareness and the awareness of all the kind mother sentient beings all around us again. And so we have this, again, blessing from the Guru Manindra Vajradhara on our crown, the nectar light coming down, streaming through ourselves and all other sentient beings, and then removing all of the kind of negative attitudes that we've had during our precious human rebirth, or our lack of appreciation of the great opportunity we have, and indeed heightening our sensitivity to just how rare, how meaningful, and how precious is this opportunity we have, and how easily it is lost, therefore not to waste any time. So that again renders us really primed to meditate on the graduated path.
当然，你现在大家在这在这个旅店的白酒也会当嘛的，你把人家白酒也会当嘛，你们就拿的小桌的，俺们这么多，我去完你吧，俺们去你们。把人家，他全是全部的讲也没办法，但等那把人家，但等那这个，但这个旅店这个，你不是2码多人呢？年说了几万人呢？他这个厂长个东安牛业，如果他要完了厂长个东，一到了这工个，丢着了联系对么吧？这个啥哇？现在过去叫东安8都没把有个事，我打等这个东安这个的，马些把他们，我这东安这个的，他东安等这个，告诉他2万2去。많이 타보도 근데 예반예배게 똑같이 란길로 맞기만 타면 안 근데 예반예배 똑같이 라시 심지 탐지길이 깨봐 지기 Kiba Tagi, Teta Generation, General Lamala, Chigalato, Sunday Jabala Tena, yeah, Lamatuan Dosa, Kuzutule, and Dizzy Johnson, Tommy Tiba, Kebatuya, and the Tendega, Yansonga to make the watch over your wake. Toma Kebacha, Rashik, Simja Tamjekula, and Kebachi. Then also this talk about the watchable Geshe Konchok the run, never think the money was up, and it caught the heart. Never think the never another to Tola Tangamari. 대졸도 톨라 주고 말이야. 어다 데데가 데데가 또 막 해봐자 라시가 심지 탐정이길래 막 해봐 탐도 해봐 저 징글랍도 수고하는데 애도 두세다가 유행법 어디다 다가 이제 데데서 말 남림게 sabje 차사라 데데 공부 샵 시엔 배도 이나 아니 제가 두세라도 아니 자체보네 삼로다 두세면은 샵 데데서 삼로다 되는 어디서 아니 다가 이제 아니 저 가서 어다 딜레 잡에 딱 녀소라 해봐 이나 녀소라 막 해봐 탑 가디어서 어다 Jamia Kunjosum, Jamia Namda Shewu Yorwa, and it Jamia Kunjosum Gala, and it that the Jam Groga, Le Mabon Cheta, Jamia Kunjosum, La, and it because of the Takaja Loni Tansum Tension, that did a job to Tony, Takaja, and it did Tipa, Pay, Jawa to Yek, and a little, so but they take a top of you like Yek. And it had a quachi that Jetta, and the quachi. 동네 코아치다 소속의 동네 가리지 맞지 녀바 많이나 탑해봐라 다 되게 녀바님에 또만 켜가지고 심지 담배 끼워 저 아니 주스 받자지 다가 이제 다 되네 타발라 람라바스 냠슬랑 람라바스 아니 뿌이다 보지 냠슬랑 투알라 아니 되네 또 란줄라 아니 다 되네 란네 아니 또만 켜가지고 줄에 켜발라 아니 받을 줄 디바다 디바 마자 안 되다 또만 켜줘야게 아니 가서다 라모 동안도 이제 징글랍도 소스 what did the commercial that what did the
And so we proceed through the different subject matter of the graduated path like this, and then making our strong supplications at the end of our meditations, at the end of our contemplations for the blessing of Guru Maninda Vajradhara. And so, when we talk about the how to relate to the spiritual teacher, looking at the rarity, the meaning, and the preciousness and so on of a precious human rebirth, and then the absolutely inevitability of death, impermanence in the form of death. So that that death is definite, that the time of death is indefinite, and that only our spiritual practice will hold to us at that time of death. So really looking into this and gaining a kind of an experiential certainty that this is not just contemplation here or speculation. I'm going to die, and I don't know what time that will happen. And so it's something that I need to have that sort of conviction about. So when we making our supplications like this, then to Guru Maninda Vajradhara to please bless me, to get the point here. To please, the nectar light, please send that down, and so that I can really get rid of any sort of procrastination that's in my mind, or a sort of distraction that's there, that I really get the import of what it means to not only take the opportunity of the precious human rebirth that's offered me, but also that I know that death's coming, and I don't know what time it's coming, and therefore I need to use every moment of that time in the best possible way to do the best I possibly can. And this continues then through the other teachings of looking at, if I waste this opportunity, because I will end up in a lower rebirth, that's going to put me in an incredibly disadvantageous situation where, the hell realms there, just incredible suffering, no opportunity to even reflect on the Dharma, and the hungry spirit realms dominated by hunger and thirst and so on, and misery, the animal realms of benighted ignorance, etc. Again, it offers no respite from that suffering and no opportunity to better my spiritual life at all. So I should now, with this understanding, at least having some grasp of the graduated path teachings, I should seize this opportunity to really make the very most of every single moment of the life that I have left. And please, wouldn't it be wonderful if I could do this? I will do this. Oh, Guru, please bless me to be able to make this so. And from that supplication, then the nectar light descends from Guru Maninda Vajradhara on our crown and comes down to us and really eradicates all of the doubt, the distraction, and so on that we are so kind of embedded in us, really, and that we are, minds, our hearts and minds really are cleared for an absolute dedication to the Dharma thereafter. And so this then extends to after looking at the lower realms and really getting a dread of being reborn there. We start to contemplate on refuge, how the triple gem can really offer us protection from such suffering, and so we develop that certain enhanced faith in the efficiency of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And again, how wonderful it would be to gain a realization in this way. May it be the case. O Guru Deity, please bless me to be able to make this so. Again, the nectar light descends. Again, we are purified of any kind of untoward attitudes, procrastination again, that is kind of blocking our ability to gain that full appreciation of the triple gem. And then we are enhanced in all of the positive thoughts and aspects and attitudes that we have generated, so that we can really dive into the graduated path teachings with full enthusiasm again. And this continues then to look into, the refuge. When we genuinely accept the refuge, we are then committed to purifying negativities. We're dedicated to the accumulation of virtue, and this we have extra conviction to be able to make this so. The same goes for them for looking at the three principal paths, the main emphasis and focus for the attainment of liberation from cyclic existence. And again, looking into being able to really...
마게마 차와이나야 토리라 게와이나 다 미르데 게와이나 동해 동할 하고 오래 아니 할래 아니 당번에 되벨 할라 치대 포에 동해데 아니 다가 이제 칸고멜 하도들 게와이네 아니 감시나 하이 다 지금 가서데 아니 지금 가서데 다 지금 가서데 소람데 마세요데야 란자 녀소라 홍고요 그때도 타와지 매바 인지 아니 네가 코아치다 제다 동해도 삼로 땅질 엔 딜레 예버 중네 아니 타바던도 예외 right? Taba dodo nyeba ke lam tsoa de karesna ta ka ja nyen jong da janju ke sem da yang da be dawa sum yim de ani dige de ani ma shi ma tab yo ma dige ke toba kyula ma ja de de toba kyula pa jo tiba de tiba ma chan ching la do so so de chen what did it ta de ne taba zam toba yim ba yina ya ani ta yiba ma ge sim je tham je la phan to tu me ba yin za ani ta yiba ma ge sim je tham je la phan ta ye che do ani ta ka ja janju ke sem 마지막에 탑이요 말 자주 셈. 다 자주가 셈 깨봐 쌈게 사천보다 쉬우저래데 이나 친구가 람라 말라비나 파친두가 람라 말라바 이나 산게 두고 매바 인자 아니 파친두가 람라 라비 어때가 또 맞잖아 봐도 뒤바데 저 답을 줬어 어때 전 아니 저 고소도가 징글랍도 썼어 어다 두세 빠자지 어때 자
And so that, continuing on with the subject matter of the graduated path, again, to look into the law of cause and effect, and the different principles of karma and so on, and again being further convinced that the emphasis or the kind of the importance of starting to really purify seriously our negativities, seriously to accumulate our positive merit. And looking into all the different possibilities within cyclic existence, and seeing that even to gain a celestial realm, a celestial realm being still in the desire realm, or even the form realm, the formless realms, and so on. How even though it takes great merit to gain to these rebirths, they are still, because they're still stuck within the confines of cyclic existence, that merit will run out and they will fall again into lower realms. And so we become more and more convinced that no halfway stage is acceptable. We have to attain liberation from cyclic existence in its entirety. Very, very important to reach that point. And so then we start to focus more intently on the three principal paths, of, really gaining renunciation, the mind of enlightenment, and the correct view in order to be able to really gain the causes that will lead to the result of liberation from cyclic existence. How wonderful if this could be the case. May it be the case. I will do what I can to do that. Now, please, Guru, please bless me to be able to do this again with the descending nectar light, again, eradicating any obstacles to our being able to achieve this, and giving us all the conducive conditions to be able to attain this quickly and easily. And so then, moving through there as well, and saying that liberation from myself alone, not really good enough. All mother sentient beings are in the same boat. I need to do something for them. I need to be able to have a point, a position where I can benefit them. I conclude that has to be enlightenment. I develop then the desire to attain enlightenment for that purpose, to really benefit all of my mother sentient beings. And so the mind of enlightenment teachings come into bear. And again, we make our supplication in that way. How wonderful it would be if I could genuinely realize the mind of enlightenment, and thereafter, of course, dedicate my life towards that through, perfecting all the 6 perfections and the 4 ways of accumulating disciples and so on. And that again, to request the blessing of Guru Munindra Vajradhara with the descending nectar light. And then even further than that, understanding that, ultimately the perfection vehicle will get me so far, but then I need to engage in the tantric path in order to gain full enlightenment. Again, please Guru, please bless me that this may be so. And again, the descending nectar light deals with any obstacles that we have towards gaining that state, and giving us all the conducive qualities to dedicate our lives to a very efficient practice. And so in that respect too, to understand the difference between aspirational mind of enlightenment, for example, and the engaging mind of enlightenment, the aspiration to go somewhere, so I will go. That's not gonna, cut the mustard, as they say, very much. That you really have to get on the road and take those first steps. And so developing the mind of enlightenment is one thing, but what gives it meaning is that we engage in the 6 perfections and the 4 ways of accumulating disciples. So this is the action aspect of that aspirational mind of enlightenment. And so in the current circumstances, we can't even, we can say, I'm going, I'd like to go somewhere, but we can't go anywhere in these current situations. We've lost that right too now.
But Zimbabwe budget and Sujuja and the thing as a share of Indu, Tango Casalet and the Dilla letter Casa. Then as a lay, that thing as a master letter, what did the check, what did the check.
And so then
Sharkom just to that the Ringa Labadisha because of the Tabiga Quanama Takaja Tanjonica Chua Mitawa in the robs some of the and did the Tobacare to the Chilamajo till Sharkom to the but robs some of the Jamato or that because of the that Mark Casora Tabe to Muneta negative, but that's some of the step I know any because of the March any Quavi Jumse and the man at Tom Netan for it. Jumse Trauma, there's some lot on the Chekom Chen. What I did and the Takaja 디제도 아니 거당문에 전에 또 제kom 제한도 아니 라싱 다这个 녀바장도 녀바장도 중국어 와说我就特上公送着特吧什么公吧是的特别写了的写到写了一把印象让给대상게 냠을 좋아하게听거 팬도 좋아하셔야 되는 거다 좋아 문에도 그네 되게는 아니 셰베도 양의 양도 다 좀더 처먹고 내 삼렀다는 어다 뒤로도 조사면도 쓴 다가제 가서는 지금 녀반이들 다가제 예, 저 되는 진짜 아니 거기 다 가서도这个 짐바다 수점다 되게도 처먹고 내 삼렀다니 아니 지금 짐발은 예반이에 수점라 예반이에 아니 다가는 지금 쇠발은 예반이에 준줄라 예반이에 땡가들라 예반이에 셰라블 예반이에 다 처먹고 내 삼렀다니 어다 제kom식을 와 지겔 analytical meditation 스도 왔다 되는 삼렀다니 왔다 전다 되지 아니 예반이에 되들 아니 다가랑라 아니 가서도 컴퓨터 제대로 검색을 와 검색 아니 뒤다 또밖에 거기에 두고 왔다 검아들라 되네 당부 저제 되네 저메가 용화 투영 그러 와 어디서
So that again, engaging in the six perfections means gaining a familiarity with leading to a realization of ethical conduct, of generosity, of patience, of enthusiastic effort, meditative concentration, and wisdom. And in the text here, we have arrived at the topic of meditative concentration. And just a word again on what we mean by glance meditation, as we have just gone through in the context of making the most of the merit field and so on, and going through all the different aspects of the Lam Rim. So, it's a very kind of a rough, just perfunctory glance at all the different subject matter we're talking about there in the context of, morning practice and so on, where you don't have that much time. But when you're engaging in a retreat, here we can engage in a lot more than just a glance meditation on all these different aspects. And so when it comes to like the six perfections, for example, here we must employ analytical meditation, so that when we bring analysis to bear on our understanding through learning, then we can gain an experiential understanding of what we're talking about, and deepen our conviction in the importance of generating good ethical conduct, generosity, and patience, and so on. We can see the kind of reasoning behind these noble qualities. And so this is very much recommended to deepen our conviction in retreat, to give the topics like that much time, more time, so that we engage in analytical meditation, coming at the topics from all different angles, kind of eradicating maybe questions that we have, doubts that we have with regard to it, and then enhancing the appreciation and acceptance that we have already generated. Very, very important that if you have the time to get into retreat mode like that, because we generate as in kind of the Buddhist model for generating wisdom is that we move from the wisdom arising from learning, from hearing and so on, the teachings, to the wisdom arising from contemplating the teachings, to the wisdom arising from meditation. And so this is the latter here, where we're talking about moving from the contemplative aspect using analytical meditation to move into the deeper, more refined understanding of meditation, which leads to realization. So again, looking at the etymology of that word, gum, meaning meditation, it is centered on habituation, habituating yourself to what you are running through, what you're contemplating in your mind, to gain that deeper appreciation of the information. So this means that you're coming at it from as many different angles as you can come up with, as many different reasonings that you can throw at the basic raw data that you understand in order to gain more conviction in the topic at hand.
我的这我的他等俺就告诉我的这个这里他们的国宝就是呢人家拉出
And so we better, we have, as I said, arrived at the topic of meditative concentration. So let's maybe get down to it before the time was gone.
我这他的那么意思他这个这他如果他个这如果他开出去的他写了不当过这个那边你把全部用完了写了的那边他我那就这个告诉了他刚才这个告诉的告诉让你个东那个觉得马里边这个有啥马里边就不是大面都被写了的大面都被写了的你马里巴了我把他马里巴了他刚才这个把他告诉了他这个的你把这边团的马里巴咱们说完了你等个这比到不公寓我知道他没我等个这公寓了他等个这等个这比到不公寓了我的他等个这比到不结完了呀告诉他刚才这个等个告诉的他刚才等个这个就说这个唱过了他等个这个就这个唱过的就唱了团的他刚才等个是中是吧他等个这中我的这他等个这个他就告诉的他准备这样他刚才说他这个说的他呢把他这个扎给的告诉的他扎什么马扎给呗考个什么的他这个公寓的大概这些他那就我说告诉的他哪个推荐呀他刚才就去推荐他这个的唱过的他这哪个推荐这个他刚才就你帮我对些给这边可能这个是中国的这个的推荐这个唱过有了我他这个就他这个送不到我这里
So here, of course, the ultimate goal in all our practice, and particularly here in the six perfections, is to realize or gain proficiency in the sixth, which is wisdom. This is the most important. So kind of like really all of the others leading up to this are really just practices of really supporting our practice of wisdom, and none more so than this one of meditative concentration, because of course the great opposite of wisdom is the ignorance that we are kind of very much burdened by, and that in order to be able to kind of gain the piercing insight into that ignorance, we need a meditative concentration that will stay with us until we can see the faults of our reality and be able to overcome them, and therefore develop a realization of emptiness and wisdom. And so here, then the development of meditative concentration is seen to be an essential practice for the development of wisdom, and that's very, very important for us to be able to do this. And of course, moving into the topic, we have covered aspects of, the nature of meditative concentration, why it's so important, what are the necessary external and internal conducive conditions to be able to engage in the practice of the development of meditative concentration. We talked about living in an isolated place, a quiet place, having ease of gaining the necessities of life, good water, food, conducive companions, good support, and so on. And then the internal conditions also of us having clarity with regard to the instructions, of dedication to the job in hand, and that looking into the different faults that we are likely to encounter, the 5 main faults of developing meditative concentration, and indeed the kind of 8 antidotes or adjustments that we can make to overcome those faults.
我的到点吧就做的大概这如果你把我不到了大概这联络的你把去这联络这那当我接吧这那经过你这那经过你主要是你不都没这吧他经过没主要在你不都接吧的你把差这个多我的这了我的这
We looked at the different faults, faults of laziness or forgetting the instruction, of sinking and distraction and of inactivity and hyperactivity, and that looking at the antidotes to overcome laziness were the first 4 of those 8, namely that we have faith in the good qualities of meditation, and that we have determination to aspire to meditation, for meditation, that we have diligence, effort to keep on, resilience in kind of like maintaining our focus on the job of developing good meditative concentration, and then also that sort of certainty in the result of meditative concentration, a state of ease of that mental and physical pliancy that comes from developing good meditative concentration.
다 레로라 그래서 레로가 녀보들라다 대바다 아니 두바다 쪼와다 아니 들라데네 아니 시도 장바 용 신장게 아니 되게 녀발레온도 다 되게 통도 아니 레로도 바시도에 아니 다가네 다 지금 다 가져데 야 뒤가서 레로도 매바이네 야 미땡 다다 샤마도 그 제바 다 가서 제바 중에는 다 제바 소리 아니 다 시시 다 가져 잘하지 아니 잘하지다 지구 용모요 잘하지 아니 잘하지 지구 중에서 아니 뭐또 도체 아 지금 뭐 좋아서 아니 뭐야 도잖아 녀바잖아 또 맞지 다 지금 깝도 아니 내 좀 소소 냠내 지금 소소 냠는 거 토네 당보다 비다고 용거 맞잖아 소소 들라 도나 지금 간세 다 비다다 줘야지 그거 보다 냠는 거 토네 제거해지 다 가져져 어디는 제
So what's so as we discussed, that overcoming laziness through applying, really feeding our faith in the process, our determination to be successful in developing meditative concentration, our effort and diligence in keeping going, and then having that sort of goal in mind of I will develop that physical and mental bliss and pliancy that comes from decent meditative concentration. And that looking at the fault of forgetting the instruction, that's the development of that alertness, mindfulness and alertness. And that we need to be able to, understand that focusing one pointedly on the meditative object, the mind gets clear awareness and sharp insight. And that's so important. And then for sinking and distraction, a great deal of effort needs to be put into overcoming these particular faults, needing kind of a multiple approaches actually to being able to overcome them, and that certainly again mindfulness and alertness play a very important part here in both keeping our focus on the object, and also then that mind which watches for any mental thinking or distraction, and is able to immediately apply the antidote to rectify the situation. And then we go into, when we have developed decent meditative concentration, we may have the tendency to want to interfere with our good concentration and over apply different antidotes. And so, and then finally, the point of being able to maintain that sort of meditative absorption without needing to apply any effort to do anything to adjust it. So leave well enough alone, so to speak. So all of this then is really about the job of paying attention to our attention, and that so this must be focused right at the beginning of a practice like this, and it goes right through until we attain mental quiescence. And so we have to really be determined to improve our attention to whatever object we are focused on, and to pay attention to that attention, lest any faults arise in our focus.
다 지금 뭐 좋다는 레바 따는 다 로드랍게 답에 그 고다들에게 제시 때문에 여기 돼서 로드랍게 아니 지금 중앙 좀만 다 지금 용해 거 좀더 소소 못 쳐봤잖아 아니 지금 본투에 안 딩게에서 가서 등기에서 아니 중마타도 지구 중마타도 남자 아니 본토에 마타야 아니 지구에 귤고 봐도 말아봐 쟤네 아니 저기 강 조적이 아니 지구 마도 봐 아니 셴 아니 본토에 왔다 되게 근데 다 소라 등 타수 연구 왔다 비소 왔다 되네 쟤네 왔다 되네 연구를 수고다 왔다 다
So it says then, in practice, through alertness, the person with a superior mind can eliminate thinking and distraction as they are starting to arise. The person with average mind can eliminate them as soon as they arise. And the least capable person, after distraction and thinking have occurred, they by them recognizing them without delay, should do their best to eliminate them.
다와나 목바다 진거니게서 목바다 진거니게 캬바 지다보셔나스 가서 디사미세요 와 지다보셔나 지다보셔나 미데 미세베서 루심 지웨 넘버 10데 목바 있어 미데 데엑서 미세베서 루심 지웨 넘버 10데 목바 인라서 목바 이나서 데모게 차도 봤다 로 데모게 차도 봐 이베 찹 semla memba baba tabu ta memba tip te memba baba tabu an sem migden le xiando mito yang migden le xiamba ma zhuo ina yang an dangja sta me de dangja dang yan dangja da daga ni an migden de ya ka so sebu de chama de secha ko so dangja dang secha mangwe dangja dang selcha mangwe tembe shuk xiando dangja dang selcha 당차 당 셀차 아서 제베 슈셴소 당차 당 셀차 망가서 가서 아 당차 또 스코 셈미데 셀레 미토 양스 셈미데 셀레 마토와 이나야 당차 당 셀차 망가서는 아 당차 당 셀차 셈바
그 연아양 아니 슈셴주성아 와디는
제베 슈셴도 다 제바기 슈셴도 그래서 당차다 세자 망외스 때 좀세고도 망외스 템베 슈셴도 소안이 지와를 말이마 레드 다디 야가리샤 셈미데레 셴도 미토 아체 당차다 세자 망외 템베 슈셴도 소안이 셈베 소안이 지와를 바인라서 다 지와를 차라가 예와체 지와를 라바디 도와드체 라바디 되죠. 다 당자다 세자 요나야, 당자다 세자 니가 요나야, 미된 녜베 녜셰 담직네 왔다 같이 거쳐다 지금 가서 담직네 왔다 팔려 봤잖아. 담직네 와래 중세 셔도 손다 디가 냠용도를 제거해도 가게 되게 계속 가고 싶어래. 담직네 와 중세 셔도 손와디 안에 지와 통고 다들 정화 처모다 아니 검 넓게 빼면서 먹고 용어요. 다들 소소 내줘 소소가 냠용거 도네. 바 이제 전 다들 저 가서는 지금 세도 되는 지금 저거 이제 냠용거 도는 원초에 좀 있어요. 참고 일라서 대다게 냠벌사 다 가서 냠벌사 안 군족의 연대 제마다 나왜 참아 일라 제마다 아니 농선 나가 세외사 당과 남
So then, the question arises then. Somebody asks, so what then is the difference between dullness and thinking and excitement, or thinking and distraction? And the answer is that when we dullness is explained as when the object is unclear to us and when we have a heaviness in our mind. And it said that furthermore, any form of dullness is also a form of ignorance. And so then it distinguishes that, saying that in terms of coarse thinking, what is occurring in the mind, and Genla is mentioning here that what is being discussed here is very difficult to put into words, and it really is only understood through really the experience of a yogi when they're in meditation. they can see from their own experience, what constitutes coarse and subtle thinking, for example. But here, anyway, is kind of an explanation, as best they can, of what it feels like to have this coarse thinking when one is trying to concentrate. Here, it said that there's a sort of a darkness in the mind, and then also that that even though the mind is not straying from the object that you are focusing on, and that you have, a sense of both clarity and stability with regard to that focus, still there is a deterioration of the intensity of your focus, and this constitutes coarse thinking. Now, subtle thinking is distinguished from that by having both clarity and stability with regard to your focus, but also there is again a deterioration, a kind of a weakening of your ascertaining consciousness, and that constitutes a subtle thinking. And that here it said that the antidotes to both of these are to meditate on the qualities of the triple gem, to look at the image of brightness, to bring the image of brightness to mind, and to engage in the practice or the integration of wind, mind, and space, blending them together.
다 롱세 남가 세베 당만이서 다 라지 때에 때도 티gle karma 가서 조건 잠시 여바티에서 데 지번에 장기 되네 남가 동발라 당배인 동 남과 동바 당서 예매도 좋아라 제주도 냠벌 줘봐 남가 고체기 인리 세와다 자수 야 세미데라 예매도 미네버라 중세 초안에서 중세 초안에 그바 참이 디 님볼 대세 때는 공부하고 대세 때냐 미네버라 다 대세 때냐 그래 다 그저 대세 때냐 미네버라서 차윈 남라 남라 셈 초안에 그바라 과 이베서 디 님볼 아니다 미다과다 다 미다과 치와 미다과다 아니 냥소 숨다 아니 거에 동에 공부하다 공부하다서 그바 전답 주베 당와 자고서 다 그바 전답 수 당와 자 그바 전답 수 주베 당와니 우 친나도 주와 쿠레라 우레 제베 나삼제 봐도 마잉 바로 곰다가 제저 우종을 삼다니 셈셜 마잉 바로 곰이 수고서 곰 되네 주점 되네 중앙점 되네 니슈장아점 ringe서 제ren도 따네 마잉 바로 곰바 야나 닝 야나 땡롱 가고 나무니 애한테 맞네 다 우중 맞네 안에 투세 다 투세 세부 다 그래서 투세 세부 나바사마타네 안에 견도 타네 안타와 카조야 봄바지게 추다 닝 대외 카도 다 우대외 카도 맞네 건 봄바지게 추도서 봄바지게 추도 공부 예수 어다 된데저 다간제 저 다 셈다 롱 니들 다간제 저와시를 차대도 아니 거저 롱마 도답죠 아니 셈 도온 그 되게 개발시도 안되는 공자다 수고 있으래 어떨지
And so this instruction on the blending of the wind, mind, and space together, that personal instruction is now explained. And so that is where one visualizes at the navel a kind of like a drop, which is the size of a small bird's egg, colored red and white. And one then sends that from the navel up through our crown and out into space, and so that it merges into space, and that we try to maintain kind of a meditative absorption single-pointedly on that, just that point where it is into space. This is referred to as the as opening the door to space, integrating the mind with that realm. Now, so this is looking at the mental thinking. Now, the other aspect, or the other half of that fault is, of course, mental distraction. And so here it's saying that when we find it, we're unable to stay without wavering on the object of our meditation. This is known as a subtle distraction. And the antidote to that is simply to apply mindfulness and alertness. But even though then we apply mindfulness and alertness, but we're still unable to remain on the object, but we're attracted to an object of attachment. This is then referred to as coarse distraction. And the antidotes recommended here are to meditate on impermanence, on the three lower realms, and the suffering of cyclic existence, and then to apply the method of putting a forceful halt to your distraction or your distracting mind. And there's a particular instruction that goes along with that as well. And this is explained as being able to look into our breathing, our inhalation and exhalation, and that here is to concentrate on the in-breath and the out-breath up to 5 cycles to begin with, and try to simply concentrate on that without allowing any distraction to arise. Then to increase it to 10 breaths, to increase it to 15, and ultimately 25 breaths, breathing in and out as one, and then counting to 25, and try to maintain that as long as one can, like gradually in that sense, to maintain a concentration that is not tainted by any distraction whatsoever. And then there's another method as well involving sort of a vase-like wind meditation, which is described as taking an white upper wind and pressing it down through the 2 nostrils, and then taking drawing up a kind of a yellow downward clearing wind, and they both meet at the navel, like at our belly area, and that we keep those 2 there. And so this is why it's described like when we take air from the bottom drawn up, air from the upper part compressed down, and it forms a vase-like shape at the navel. That's why it's called a vase-like wind meditation. And so this is again saying this is because that both mind and winds, the subtle winds, are very closely related. And so that if we have control over our winds like this, then it's going to lead to more control over our mind.
그래서 쉐바 코란데 하고에 쉐바 제들 유리게 다 조에데 룽도 저거 요와서 룽도 저거 요와서 룽마 뒤답졌다 다다 뭐저 룽로 온조 매버 시부시부터 요거 받다 이네 우 미네 야야 템베소르제 샴네 야 템베소르제 아니 월롱 세부 아니 돌롱 까버 마 템베소르제 뭐가 이제 그 수기 인데 저는 다 대화 가도도 마 인데 저 네 삼삼천 뭐가 이제 수기 인데서 거야 셈내서 달 룽데 네 대디가 와 그냥 봐도 대화 요거 있자.
So again, demonstrating there how this relationship between the subtle winds and the mind, and how the mind rides on the winds like that. And so here the instruction is describing the way one wind or upper wind is compressed downwards, and then the lower wind is raised upwards, so that they meet at this point and kind of compress into a very small area. both the winds and the mind that's riding on those winds. So it's kind of like they're in a kind of very small area. We can have a more focused attention. And so it's kind of like saying this is something that aids our concentration.
Yeah, but that subtle we get a game, that is Shabara, in a that Ravalia, Taju Mungu, you do, command, the subtle mind, that was a more subtle mind, get a game, that could you want to go, that could you in a Tachi also, same thought to do, and my just want to touch you, and got the same down, lonely the tell you do, long the mind is cow do, and the same there, and how do you pengu you do, what that the nigga got to that touch is of Java.
Again, as clarifying there, I was mentioning subtle winds, but it's not the subtle winds that we're talking about here, because that would infer that it's the subtle mind that's riding on those subtle winds. So it's simply, coarse levels of the winds and coarse levels of the mind as well. And indeed, there are many different degrees of coarseness to our mental aspect. And so here it's simply saying that to contemplate this movement of wind like this on the one down, the one going up, so that they meet and are kind of squeezed into a small area at the navel. And that here is kind of like saying there's gaining control over the winds, ergo you now have control over that mind as well. So it's kind of giving a means to an end.
다 증거니 중에서 아니야 도 맞지 봤다 증거니 중에서 아니 도 미제 받은 예바 임바사 도 중고요 다 돼서 대녀버 증거니 중마다도 아니 다 리바체는 시 중안에 지 고점도 대마중안에 아니 중마도 제 마중안에 규르보 막고 왔다 다 제국고요도 리바체는 아니 봉답 지고서 대야 셈믹데라 체절 준비 리바 나대도 제베 세자 유나 양서 유장서 아니 괴셰 체외 아 내자 다 내자 아 깔라서 내자 깔라서 다 로다 내자 깔라서 체마 체마 아서 짐바 중세 르나 뭐 짐바 마도 셈 짐데다 밑에갈 짐데다 중세 르나 다 내자 유자야 유장 야 징세 체외 세자에 가외서 다 되는 인사 다 고쳐는 뭐 고도 되나 아자 랑냠라 빠다 소소 다 내줘 봐 소소 냠뇨라 빠서 랑냠라 빵대서 리과 팡 대잠식 되봐 이나 대잠 되봐 이나 그거 겨워 도 냠바 아니 뭐저게 뭐저네 대래 안에 중세 말리 아니 리과 팡 대잠식 레봐 이나 아니 지와 겨워 도 냠발레 아니 중세 팡对的，人把这当说是两米个点，点那个差不多，俺超完的国外来sem练的那家去sem练的，俺可是他那家去或者是他那家去但那家南中人给是俺精神节的，他今晚的国外个孙节呢，他老一数进的，他老妈阿妈都看那家个那个了，老一数进呢。虽然讲的大概这虽然讲的大概大今晚的国外用啊的大概这国对呢这些个嘛就把讲我大的这日本俺的的这边俺的的这边世界的第二是人民所讲的大讲的等于是革命的主题是你这个现在俺的都这边世界那边세차 매베 당와 잠라 이데 미치고다 세차 매베 딱그 예식의 진당 나대도 제베서 나 데데게 누가 갈거서 야고 요데 나대도 제베 안에 세차 매베 당와 잠 데데 당와 잠라 아니 이데 지죠 말고 데데게 다 야고 검토도서 이데 지죠 말서 이데 미쳐고 데다 증거 참모야 최네 아니 셈땡에 제라 균차수 주베세 아니 다 교체받 예바 인사 임베 대녀볼 아니 도미셔봐 따뇽서 좋나 따뇽서 르데 조마고서 다 따뇽서 샤나다 이내야 다그 거두 이내 제세가 송제 아니 다다 지금 소소가 다 딜레샤 삼사지 들어갈 거 저게 샤네 아니 제세 니가 정바데 셰셰 이거 중시리 전다 다 되고 됐어. 또 어떻게 좀 저봐 어째
So just looking at thinking and distraction independently or individually, and then when you have both of thinking and distraction arising, kind of together simultaneously, this is known as a compounded thought or a compounded problem. And here the antidote is that you have, this kind of alertness, so that you can, without further ado, abandon both thinking and the distraction that's there. Now, how does this occur? Here, this is kind of an explanation that is, I suppose, it is kind of explaining what you can do, but it's emphasizing again that this is very much kind of also necessary to rely on your own personal experience when engaging in meditative concentration. So, for example, here, where you want to apply the antidote to this compounded problem, and so you now kind of tighten your focus on the object of your meditation, and you gain that sense of stability with regard to it. But because then that may allow more distraction to arise, you may gain clarity with regard to what you're looking at. Focused on, but because distraction may arise, there's an increased risk of distraction. Your stability with regard to the object is going to be hard to find. So then you go, okay, now then I loosen up my focus slightly. So you loosen up your focus on the object, and then you get that sort of stability to the object. But now you've opened up the door for maybe the thinking to arise, so you lose clarity. It's more difficult to find clarity with regard to the object. And so it's kind of like this constantly. You are moving, between one and the other to kind of adjust for the mental thinking on the one hand, and then looking at mental. Maintain in a position of both clarity and intensity with regard to the object between these faults of mental thinking and mental distraction. And so you kind of keep returning to the mind, to that sort of middle way between thinking and distraction, and by keeping one's focus on maintaining both the clarity and the intensity or stability with regard to the object. And so this is a process of really watching from your own experience and knowing what is best to do, how much adjustment you need to make, and so on each time. And that so again, it's kind of like knowing that, on the one hand, whenever a stability occurs, then you have to watch out for mental sinking, and to make the adjustment so that you increase the kind of clarity of the object to your mental mind. And again, it's saying that it's only through experience that you gain that, and that you need to kind of keep adjusting until you have the confidence that you're kind of maintaining the correct level of intensity towards the object, so that you have both stability and clarity. And so again, alternating like this is the way to go. And in this way, you can develop a faultless meditative concentration. We should never be satisfied when we have just a kind of when your apprehension of the object has insufficient clarity on the one hand, or insufficient stability on the other. And this is the way to do it. And that here, when we have been able to cut off any semblance mental sinking or mental distraction, then we can remain in equipoise without any effort. And it's sort of saying here, it's kind of now you've made it. You really got your meditative kind of stability and absorption, but you're still maybe habitually wanting to make the adjustments. The kind of you won't leave well enough alone. And so then the antidote to that is saying leave it so. Don't interfere where it's not necessary, and maintain that equipoise without making any further effort.
What did it do? What I did to any sim, Tamanja, Tambuna, that's semi the top we do, Tambuna, what we double Jungo, or Tambuna, because some said to the near, that said to the near, that you to do with the Yogomara, and then the motor be good to talk water, and then let the two, but what the letter matter, that's the near one letter, and of course, that was touch much on the Gua. 차츠보지 온 데가 왔다 거든요. 저거다 그 림바시로 당봉어서 남주처럼 거마장에서 허브갈 아 네가 그가 톱갈 줘 때도 용야 거라 딱고 고마시 맞을 왔다. 마시 맞아. 다 당고 저 가야 뒤 통도지보다 대 맞던 건데 아니 땡에서 연대 양도 삼렀다. 땡에서 좋아게 좋았다. 그래서 땡에서 대박게 당화의 이제다. 아니 좀 뭔데다. 어떤 데가 대박게 아니 땡에서 좀 되고 아니 딜라 땡에서 좀 얘기 아니 저 개견세 청결 주비에 다한테 초사 직장지에 와 네가 처먹고 지금 둘러대는면도 초사 직장다 되게 되게서보다 나 검자가 또 밖에 가지고 어떤 용해 거라 매 되는 거 로다 근데 어떤데서 처먹고데 다 교소 타이어만 되게 그가 사투가 되네 아니 거 되게서 다 비다 부리게 도와서 용으로 왔다 대답이 최제 레퍼 땅배 셈내고 림게 톱냐 스탑 루세 신장다 제베 현대 주바 주로서다 다 숨바 중도 지다 왔다들 중도 다네 tun상자 다 어디다 다 숨바 중도 지다 제가 추 나시에서 나다다 되게 땡에지 주비에게 아니 다 같이 저거 다 되게 땡에지 다 같이 저 주비에게 다 주단계 아니 저거 다 말기보다 받는 데 루규레 다 배자레 아니 되게 아니야 그 다가니시 뒤쳐도 다 저기 양 가서도 지가서다 통제 사와 가르가르 제고도 어떻게 통제 통답지에 어디를 전 tunsa도 제다 저 출라 tun사도 야现在现在给남자对面苏拉공태的제와 라사 따와서 나 진짜我这他们家超市
So you're kind of saying, like, the explanations we have with regard to this particular development of mental quiescence through developing this kind of meditative concentration is very good to rely on. But again, we have to look at our own experience and see how best we can develop it. But what it needs at the very outset is a tremendous sense of not just faith in the veracity of the practice, but a powerful determination to remain, keep at it. It needs that persistence, that consistency to bring it about. Because, we can see now at the outset, from the very beginning, you try to think about, oh my God, what they're explaining at the end of being able to have this mental quiescence sounds so impossible to me now. How could I possibly do that? But everybody has to start somewhere. The longest journey begins with the first step, as they say. And so here is something that we have to be able to begin, no matter how patchy our concentration is when we begin. And that what is absolutely essential for us is to understand the massive importance of developing such concentration, and by really understanding the importance of it, we also understand that to be able to develop this, we need a huge support system of conditions that will bring us success. So it's not just a matter of starting out with very short sessions at the outset so that you have quality, quantity, and that you kind of stop in time before you get frustrated, and it can gain just a little bit of stability, clarity with what you're focused on just for a short amount of time, but also to be engaging in all of the practices, seeking the blessings for success of your practice, and again engaging in a variety of activities of purifying negativities and obscurations that you have towards being able to develop such clarity and such stability, and developing then all of the positive merit to be able to fuel your practice to its successful completion. And so all of this is part and parcel of any practice you have of meditative concentration like this. And it's very important that you have a very powerful faith in the practice. Again, looking at that faith in the practice, that you have a very powerful aspiration to be successful in the practice. And again, this again is kind of stuff that underpins the effort that you will put in to get there. And so all of this, to understand how comprehensive a practice it is, that it's really necessary and worth putting in all of this effort to gain this kind of practice. And this means to sustaining and working towards and fighting for all the necessary conducive conditions, external and internal, that will help your practice. And so it's saying that, if you can engage with the practice like this, you can go through the 9 different stages as explained gradually, and finally reach that point of mental absorption, of really proper mental quiescence, being able to sustain your meditative concentration effortlessly and experience this pliancy of body and mind for as long as you like. And that then, so at the end of the practice, it's explained that you do as before at the end of other practices that we've done. And then in the meantime, in kind of between sessions, you kind of keep your mind fresh by reading the biographies of holy beings, especially those who've concentrated on developing mental quiescence as well, and also familiarizing yourself with all of the explanations of mental quiescence that you can get your hands on, and looking at all of the different teachings and commentaries on those teachings that are relative to the practice of developing meditative concentration.
아니 랑고 똑바게 두고 요 말이야. 배나 자주 그 쌤 가서 배나 초람 루아다 배나 녀랑 다 년도들 안제 택받지 뭐 가이네. 아니 저 녀랑 그 초람 도발라 가서다 다가 저 년도 그 서바 주마 많이 받게 그래. 아니 대전 그 초람 도발라 아니 다 년도 그 주마 많이 받다 시에 먹어 봤잖아. 자주 그 쌤을 안 줄래 깨고. 다 자주 그 쌤을 안 줄래 깨발라. 밑에 쌤 되게 쌤 댄서가 미ken 샘디게 댄데 마탈라야 셴네 마톱나 잔주 샘게 두고 야 말 다가 저 내가 내가 저 람게 또밖에 봐라 아니 땡가 생겨 봐도 고만 잘 봐. 로아 나 배는 찾아봐는 거서 저기 가서데 저 가서 단단 거서 단단데 감고마 답이나 저기 대백산에 야 대반에 타는 감고마를 깨발라 야봐도 땡에서 거기요. 땡에서 만나 감고마 깨도 말. 딱 감고마데 거버리 수수 항사도 요 말때 이내다 개취지도 산제 고마 토바다 타바도 탐색 점바 토발라 람귤에 깨고 와. 람귤에 깨발라 땡에서 만나 람귤에 깨고 따도 수지 내가 사고차 되기도 와. 내가 사고차 되기도 어다 그 땡에서 그 연대도 삼로 따네. 아니 막에나 타문도 삼성 고바 시했잖아. 아니 지금 왔다 다지 배전 제과지 차대거든. 왔다 타만 맞으나 몰람 수제를 잡네. 다지 막에나 타문도 삼사 지금 다지 지금 예반이 제국도 왔다 들으시네. 왔는데 저 들으시자. 아니 다가리세 다들 요래 라마 통화도 랑기 지월 라마 통화도 지차라. 다가자 다 되는 때가 좀 막에나 타문도 왔다가 저 가서는 지소 파제 쪽에 냠내 제국이요. 냠내 지도 아니 셔랍 제국이요. 좋아? 셔럽 개구요래. 다 셔럽 개발라 땡가 즈메나 탑니도. 아니 냠네 셔바 타치마 피타고 용알라 땡가 즈메나 탑니도. 데데 이마 인자 아니 때가서데 아니 데데 이마다 땡가 지게마 딱게 게마 지게 게마 아니 게마 지게 제토가 쇼 지게 데다 제노바다 라말레 라다랑 심제 라다랑 타고게 심제 탐제길라 땡가 지게마 지게 마게마 탑니도. 아니 게마 라마 통한도 저거 지금 랍도스 소데 저발라 때네. 아니 주제 나가 위해서도 교육받 토마메가 디바다 캐바도 땡에서 내가 피다고 캐발라 봐도 주제 디바다 나니니 된체서 삼사체 좋아 나니니 마 된체 왔다 디바다 디바 캐바도 땡에서 캐발라 봐도 주제겠다 지금서 지와 타라라 소바 되게 아니 몇 탐제 신데 바 땡에서 피다고 캐도 누가 캐바지 줘서 알라마 통한 도장 투주를 예배 땡에서 나 실제 하시 심지 탐제를 캐도 누가 캐바지 줘서 빼하고 줘서 상 가고
So again, to emphasize it's really the quintessential importance of developing this kind of meditative concentration, such that realizations are not possible without being able to develop such a concentration, and that so it's really essential for any development on the path, any realization on the path. And that here, that this is the same, like, when we talk about hearers and solitary realizers, when we realize of talking about the desire realm, celestial beings, and the higher realms, where we have the form and the formless realms. All of these states are necessary for them to develop certain meditative concentrations. And of course, when you talk about desire realm, celestial beings, and form realms and formless realm beings, even though they have developed such powerful concentrations, they are still within cyclic existence anyway. So it's kind of for any sort of development, really, or any kind of progress even within cyclic existence, is saying that the meditative concentration is kind of something that you can't do without. And here, we have to understand that we are aiming for the omniscient state of enlightenment, and to develop the causes on that path, to make that path successful. One of the main causes is to develop such meditative concentration. So again, it's constantly reminding us that it's something that we really can't do without, that it's quintessential. And so we kind of, again, increase our faith in the practice, increase our determination and aspiration to develop meditative concentration. And that here, of course, as we know, it is an essential to being able to develop the wisdom perfection, the wisdom that we need to develop to get out of cyclic existence in the first place. So it's kind of that which underpins so much of what we do in our spiritual practice. And that's here, and so we make that, generating that sense of an emotional determination to develop meditative concentration. We go, how wonderful it would be if I could develop such a meditative concentration. May I be able to do so? I will do so. Oh, Guru Devi, please bless me to be able to do this. And again, making this powerful supplication inspires Guru Manindra Vajradhara on our crown to release the descending nectar lights which start to permeate through myself and all other sentient beings, through all our body and mind, purifying all our obscurations and negativities in general, but in particular, any particular obstacles that we have and obscurations that we have to developing the mind meditative concentration. These are eradicated from our systems, and that we are further endowed and blessed with all of the conducive conditions necessary to developing such practices to their perfection. And so, and really, that we gain the level of meditative concentration as enjoyed by Guru Muninja Vajradhara himself and all of the Buddhas. That's our aspiration. That's our determination.
我的是我的恐怕是我的是他的呢在咱们下去这就大概这让给结果了那么突然多上的大概这我的让给你个可能现在那么就那些这大年终个三六节大三节上今年做个三今年 아니 당연히 라바 내시잖아 랑닝도 빼마 답제를 做sab자 되네 돈이 더 베시 시람 삼로 도스타 되네 돈이 더 베시 시람게 삼로 담에 로 다가라 아니 님의 기고 조소 삼자 되네 심지어 탐제도 산제 고만 마도나 탐도 토바 치기 삼자게 아니 자주가 셈제 삼로 다 되네 셈 다가라 다외 기고 조소 삼자 랑이 다 가서 님아 답배마데 님아 다외 때 어떤 내소 삼자 되네 담아 통한 도지 찬데 아니 선대주네 반지자가 라마를 보자 다기 네가 빼면 가르쳐 구수도 무도 자도서 아니 저번에 마 된다 답이 가서 배 니베 가서 쇼 수배 가서 땐주는 산제 고마마도 어디 제소 다 약고 쉬워 소 안 되네 니도 많이 남지 마주만지 마주자 빼마지 이래서 아니 네가다 다 지금 담주 소리 잘 도지 가부 쟁가 봐 제가 지금 담주 소리 잘 되게 아니 되네 다 가자 저 어디네 저 덤배 생각 뭐니 마무니여서 드레스 거라지 거라 숨자 되네 아니 조금 알아봐서 나티티티티 잠배양 생각들어서 거라 다 치고지 자 되네 거라 나고라 땡땡가 오면 예다마 예도 잡아 다다가다 해로 마셔만해서 땡땡가 숨 거든 다딘 나디 다랑게 닝게 그서 라마 통한 도사 내바디 레 꿀레 외세트라 랑게 집어내 간디가 발라 외세트네 아니 랑게 르마 예수가 사베 틱바 좋았다 세디 생가마 대가마 토마 메바서베 틱바 라다 마스 라다 랑게 타고지 마게 심제 탐제 틱바 르고네다 소제 마제 미사오 좀 로열라서 주 참아 쓰종 가져서 낙선에서 록달라서 다가 좀 미게 주본게 좀 간데 좀 많이네 아 장수다 야고 싶어 종소 삼사체 알 하도도 다 가자 저 아니 가소라 다 가자 뉴도 산제 고마 토발라 다 가자 어다 랑이 류대당 용할 다 류게 내 나사라 강에 가려 네가 마 시바 종소 삼사체 아니 다가니 저 랑게 다 뉴도 산제발라 아니 랑게 자롱 틸레도 꾸다고 야고 고고 요래 아니 대조나 아니 대조에 때는 아니 탐에게 낚시디 괜치시죠 탐에 낚시 괜 그거 뭐 봐잖아 가나타자 딱바 앉아 바시 차도가 야고 싶어 총총선 내내 저 랑게 심도 제가 롱데 내랭게 저는 아니 라마샤자스 꾸들 현지 지금 랑게 류다 라마샤자스 꾸를 교수 소소 어디 거 봐시 좋아 어디지
And so we bring our mind to bear on the figure on our crown, Guru Muninja Vajradhara. Now we prepare to invite the Guru Muninja Vajradhara down to our own heart center. And just as before, we prepare our lotus, the sun and moon disc mandala seat in the same way through contemplating renunciation, and from that emerges or appears the lotus seat, and then looking at the lack of inherent existence of the self and maintaining that meditation on the mere absence of the object of negation to develop the sun disk mandala, and then the recognition of the dependent origination arising that we can achieve anything because of that, because there is this perfect relationship between cause and effect, and therefore we have an aspiration to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings is possible. And from that notion of bodhicitta arises the moon disc cushion. And so we have prepared the seat, and then we make our invocation verse again. O glorious and precious root Guru, come take your lotus and moon seat placed here at my heart. You keep me safe in your kindness. Bestow on me the attainments of body, speech, and mind. With the first recitation, the figure begins to move down through our central channel, and then with the second arrives at our heart center, and at the end of the third, it remains steadfast there and we have this understanding that they will be with us until we attain the state of enlightenment. And then we have the petals of the lotus folding over that figure of Guru Manindra Vajradhara and sealed at the top with a white Vajra, and surrounded by the mantras of the name mantra of Shakyamuni Buddha, Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Soha, in the clockwise direction, the mantra of the Omar Rapatsanadi, Mandrashi mantra in an anti-clockwise direction, and the mantra of dependent origination in a clockwise direction. So they are fully sealed in that way. And then from within, then light rays begin to emanate from that the lotus leaves and permeating through our body, touching every single atom of our body and mind, and indeed all of the bodies and minds of all sentient beings all around us. And they begin the process of really purifying all the negativities that we've accumulated since the beginning of this time, all of the negativities of body, speech, and mind that we have accumulated since the beginning of this time, that all of our faults or any taintedness associated with our channels, winds, and drops are also purified. And in particular, we are relieved of that debilitating aspect of looking at all of life through a kind of common, ordinary, seeing everything in its ordinary appearance. And so this is eradicated from our psyche, and we are able to regard all of life through a purified appearance, seeing everything in its purified appearance. And so in this way, we can really work towards attaining the state of enlightenment as quickly as possible.
아니 소소가 시도 저 롱데 년랭게 아니 라마샤자스가 고데 렌지징가 소소 류데 라마샤자 꿀 주초 소소 시도 저 셈데 년랭게 라마샤자스가 토데 렌지징겐잖아 아니 소소 셈데 라마샤자스가 토르 주소 소소 아니 라게 류가 예수다 라마샤자스가 구소도 뭐 예매 찾다 야고 시고 주소 삼자 왔다 문에다 내다 더 주소 사가고 아니 라게 내야 내게 저 탐제 다니 아니 라마샤자스가 셰강 주소 삼삼자 다 라마 샤자 생기게 아니 구조도 뭐 예매 줘 투가래 왜세 빠도 매바 튀네 아니 저다 감성제 심자 탐제라 왜세 네가 포와를 때네 대다 탐제자 아니 저 라마 샤자스 구조도 뭐 예매 줘서 대다게 내 탐제자 다 이거서 내기 겨 탐제 다네 라마 도와도 저거 시행하는 줘서 다 감심제 탐제가 또 산제 고마 두비 인서 다 니마 들을 줘서 손을 가고
And then through the combination of my own most subtle wind with the body of the Buddha, one acting as the substantial cause, the other acting as the cooperative condition, and my own body is transformed into the enlightened body of the Buddha. And then through the combination of my own most subtle mind acting as the substantial cause and the mind of the Buddha acting as the cooperative condition, my own mind is transformed into the enlightened mind of a Buddha. And I have this certainty now of being inseparable in body, speech, and mind from the enlightened body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. And as an enlightened being, I send out rays of light from my own heart center equal in number to all the sentient beings in existence. And touching them, they automatically become enlightened beings and inseparable from the mind of Guru Manindra Vajradhara. And in the places in which they are, again, these are transformed as is mine into the celestial palatial realm of a Buddha realm. And I kind of like really rejoice in this. That I've been able to not only attain the state of enlightenment today, but also fulfill the goal of bringing all other sentient beings to enlightenment. How wonderful this is. and that I have to take into account that all of the sentient beings I'm referring to, the leading of them to enlightenment that I'm referring to, the practice of engaging in the practice that I'm referring to, that all of this, listening to the Dharma and explaining the Dharma, that all of this is completely empty of inherent existence and is merely imputed by thought.
And the Tongbate, Tongbe Dawate, Tatonism, she gets something.
And this emptiness, from that emptiness arises the bliss which meets with the emptiness, and we abide in the non-dual bliss, non-dual wisdom of this avoidance.
Da, Meba Yije Samre, Mune Kora, the Lela with the Kawayu. Yinaya, Tada di, Judy, Tada di, good in this Sabati, Tanda what did it, that did it, good in the Sabati, Tada Samotawan is a Mune Kora, the Degi. That young to again, that Kasoda, that Kazaji, Jujan, Yonsu to watching, and when you to be and Jula Jua shows. So what is it?
Now, of course, we know we're operating here at the level of imagination, and of course, what we're describing here, it can't be that easy, as we've just explained. But we also recognize that we are creating causes here, trying to create these imprints on our mind, and we make a powerful dedication that may be able to quickly make this reality that I have just imagined, to make it really manifest as quickly, and that all of the causes and conditions will be complete to make it manifest quickly in the future.
Okay,
so if you have time, can we recite the Lamrim dedication prayer? Have you got the text?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, until
so we'll do the Lamrim dedication prayer. From my two collections, vast space that I have amassed from working with effort to this practice for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds of wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in loving compassion for all lives. May I find the best of complete integrated paths and teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas in my practice. Using skillful means drawn by a strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings, points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold these teachings for a very long time. My heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness anew. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted that wish, and Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time, by even this graded path to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children. May all human and non-human beings eliminate adversity, to create conducive conditions of practicing the excellent path, never be parted in any of their lives on the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Already Corway Shinkam Pandai Bewang Yangway Chen Ray Jigwang Jing Dato Ja Pei Si De
Dream it kiam pem po jam gam jen kiam pe su ken song kapa lo sang shai pe java su Big me se we dream can pay one Gam can pay song Lo sang rang bei shava Big me say we Dream can pay Gao Kim Pei Su Ken Song Ka Lo San Rai Pei Sha La You are of the Strive great treasure of compassion, not aimed at true existence, and Manjushri, master of flawless wisdom, as well as Vajrapani, destroyer of hordes of demons without exception. Sankapa, crown jewel of the sages of the land of snow, Losang Drakpa, at your feet, I make requests.
Also, Toche, thank you very much. Lord,
Thank you, Genna.
Everyone, thank you.
Thank you, Genna.
Was it okay for everybody? Everybody here okay?
Thank you very much.
So,
Okay, take care.
Yeah.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
All the
Thank
best.
you. Hopefully
Thank you,
we're
thank
around
you,
next
thank
week to do the same.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Noel.
Okay.
Thanks,
See you next
Genna.
week.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.